Yeah, 11 a.m. That's the Myrtle Beach Bowl.
Wow.
The good
Early tea
old,
time. Early tea time. Yeah.
good old Myrtle Beach Bowl. So, yeah, we're going to talk on this show about the bowl games between this Friday and next Friday. And we will continuously update all of the different transfers and opt outs and injuries, interim coaches, and all that kind of really important stuff for you guys to handicap the games. And that doesn't mean it's a guaranteed win just because someone interims or someone transfers out or any of that stuff, but this is still going to help you. No question about it. And then we're going to take a look at week 15 in the NFL, something we have not talked about so far this year, Mark. Of course, you've talked a lot of NFL, and I've joined you from time to time on the Playbook Experts YouTube channel. So this is the first time that we're talking the NFL since our preview earlier in the season with Ryan Dunleavy. So I'm sure Ryan will be back in a few weeks when we preview the playoffs. But it's good to talk NFL again.
It sure is, Greg. It flew by. I can tell you that. The season just absolutely flew by. And I've never seen such a tight race for playoff seeding in my life than we're seeing this year. And unbelievably, it's all happening with a lot of backup quarterbacks. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. We didn't really go through it, of course, on the air here, but everybody's been living it, and it's really a crazy situation. You just hope that that some good can come out of this, meaning maybe a Jake Browning, maybe there's something there. I don't think Joshua Dobbs was ever gonna become anything, even though he put up some incredible first couple of games. But that just shows you the difference between what a real backup is and a potential starter is someone that can come in for a couple of weeks and provide some really good production. But then once he's there for 3 and 4 and 5 weeks, the warts start coming out. Um, I'm not so sure we're going to see that with Jake Browning. I got a feeling Jake Browning is going to make a lot of money if he keeps this up, and I think he's gonna. I'm not saying he's going to be a star. I just think that he's got the ability to be maybe a starting quarterback in the NFL.
I agree 100% with you. I mean, there's not one thing we saw about him that doesn't spell a successful quarterback in the NFL. And as far as Josh Dobbs is concerned, he is what you would call, I guess, today a spot starter. Because when he comes in these weird roles with different teams, he steps in the first game or two and he does real well. And then all of a sudden, everything falls apart on him. And it happened again at Minnesota this year. But next year, we'll probably see him again with another team in need for a quarterback.
All right. Let's first of all tell you what. We'll start with college football, and we got those games coming up on Saturday. So Saturday, which is tomorrow, they got 6 games on Saturday. So and it starts at 11 a.m. and it ends with the night game at 9:15, the Independence Bowl, which is kind of weird. Usually, you would think 9:15 would be a West Coast game. Now the LA Bowl is at 7:30, but the Independence, I'm pretty sure, is Shreveport. So that's at 9:15. That's a weird matchup to be in Shreveport. They still have the Independence Bowl at Shreveport, don't they? That's Texas Tech and Cal. They haven't changed that, have they?
No, they haven't. No.
Okay. So yeah, because that would think like a West Coast kind of Texas Tech, Cal, late night, but no, it's Eastern location. So, all right, the things we have to point out here, as far as players, coaches, all that kind of stuff. All right, so Ohio will not only be without Curtis Rourke, their starting quarterback, but they'll be without their top 2 wide receivers and their top wide receiver. So they're all transferring out. So that's a huge deal, which would lead you to believe Georgia Southern is a pretty good way to go as a 3-point favorite. App State will be without their top running back, Nate Noel. Miami of Ohio, remember Blake Abbott was injured in the Toledo game midseason. Backup comes in, does a good job. They run the table, win the MAC championship, and now the kid decides to transfer. So now they're down to their third string quarterback against App State. New Mexico State will be without their top wide receiver. He's transferring against Fresno with Jeff Tedford stepping away for health reasons. So they've got an interim coach. UCLA and Boise, this is a nightmare. You have Pac 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Latu Latu. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name correctly. That's a top 10 pick in this year's NFL draft. We're going to talk a lot more about him on this channel with Dave Syverson. We've already mentioned his name on this channel with Dave. Carson Steele, their number one running back, is banged up, may not play. Boise, meanwhile, first string quarterback transferred to Arkansas. Second string quarterback's injured. Third string quarterback will get to start. Freshman, true freshman with no career snaps. Their top wide receiver's out for the game. He's transferring. And then the Texas Tech Cal game is like the only game. Well, look, Tech does have two of their top wide receivers transferring out. But if you look at it, all the games I just mentioned, I think the one game that looks like it's really the one that doesn't have any of this is the New Orleans Bowl, where Jacksonville State takes on Louisiana. Basically, it's a home type game for Louisiana in New Orleans. But that's like the only game, that one and maybe the Texas Tech Cal game, where there's not a whole lot of drama going on with coaches and players.
I think this should all be titled, the segment should be titled, Who's Not There?
Yeah, right. Get a new sponsor.
Yeah, exactly. Before they get into the opening of the bowl game, who's not there? Who's not here? But that's the way the world of college football is these days, with this portal being what it is. It's running rampant and running out of control. There's nothing we can do about it. And as handicappers, all we can do is handicap what's in front of us. Fortunately, I have a large database, which gives me a lot of great information for situational and trend information. And
Where's
I
that
rely
bowl
on
guide,
that.
Mark?
Yes?
Where's that bowl guide? Is it right next to you? Where is it?
This bowl guide?
Oh, there it is.
This bowl guide?
That bowl guide.
Yeah,
Can't
there
do
you go.
without
That
it.
bowl guide. My database helped put this bowl guide together, and it's just jam-packed with every piece of information you want on every bowl game. So pick up a copy, playbooksports.com. I guarantee it'll be the most read newspaper or publication you'll do between now and the new year.
And that will be, there'll be a link in the description area, so you can check that out while you're watching the show. So out of the games on Saturday and all the craziness going on, is there one game on Saturday that you like the best?
Well, I would say you have. I'm sifting through. There's two games that I rather like, and they're both. They evolve out of one of the theories and equations that I do is it involves teams that were champions. They won their conference championship, and they dress up as an underdog in a bowl game to a team that was not a champion.
Oh, okay.
Sort of
I see what that is.
Yeah, sort of a Rodney Dangerfield approach to these
Okay.
teams, and they really tend to play rather quite well. I have to tell you that.
Okay.
And we have two of them on Saturday's card. My problem when if I have to discern or decipher between the two, I'm having to go through the portal garbage in doing just that. But I'm going to live by the database and live by the numbers. And the first one will be Miami of Ohio taking on App State. Miami wins the MAC. App State did not win the Sun Belt.
No, they lost the championship game.
No, and they've got a terrific head coach in Chuck Martin at Miami of Ohio. He brought this program back from the ashes. He's been there maybe 10 or 12 years. He's done an absolutely great job. I'm really surprised he's still there. I would think that maybe even a group of five team, a good group of five team would go after him. But maybe he likes it home in Miami. Maybe that's Athens, Ohio. Maybe he loves it there. But anyway, he's done a great job with this program here. And I can tell you this, that in a bowl game, he's been an underdog 11 times. Miami's 10-1 against the spread in underdog roles in bowl games.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
Yep. And that's what they're dressing up here against Appalachian State, who has not been all that good as chalk or favorites here of late coming down the stretch. The last 25 games, they've only beat the spread in those 25 games 8 times. So, they're sort of unraveling that way as far as laying points goes. Miami, I think, is a football team that will be excited to be here. I don't know about App State. They're probably thrilled, or not thrilled, but glad to be here. But I think Miami is thrilled to be here. That's the first play. Miami, a double champion.
And that makes a lot of sense, even though, again, we're not going to have any idea how this number 3 quarterback is going to perform. Maybe he's bad, and maybe the good thing is, though, is that Miami has not won with offense. They've won with defense, and that
Yes.
is so it's not like they're a defensive team that's missing their MAC defensive player of the year. This is a defensive team that's down to the third string, and the second stringer was good, but it wasn't like he was some like prolific kid. He just did a decent enough job and let the defense handle everything. So yeah, and plus I do agree. I wonder. App State had so many big games at the end of the season that you wonder after then having it lost that last game, all the wins, get to the championship game, and then you lose that close championship game. You just wonder whether or not they're just kind of exhausted mentally, and yeah, we lost. We're not the champs. Miami of Ohio, not it's not some sort of marquee game. Running backs out. That's a big player for them. Yeah, I can definitely see where you're going there.
You hit it, Greg. The Miami defense is what the whole football team is all about. 314 yards a game, which is absolutely terrific. And you also look at what they did against other fellow bowl teams this year. Miami of Ohio, other bowl teams, 324 yards a game. So, they're really rock solid defensively. And also, Appalachian State on that big win streak, 5-game win streak to get them into this bowl position here, and they laid an egg at Troy in the championship game. They were
Yep.
kind of wiped out in that
Yep.
contest. So,
All right.
uh, so
That's the
I'm
first one.
Miami would be that first guy. Yes.
And was your second one on a Saturday or on another
No,
day?
it's a Saturday. We'll stick with the theme,
Okay.
if you will, on Saturday, and we're going to look at Boise State,
Oh.
double champion, taking points from UCLA. Who, if I made a list of college bowl teams that are deeply disappointed in the bowl game in which they landed, UCLA would be right near the top of the pack.
Yep.
They started the season with a projected win total of 8.5 wins in the season, and many people picked them to finish third or fourth in the Pac 12. Well, 7 wins didn't cut it for this team. They started out like a house of fire. They won their first 3 football games, and then it just went to hell in a handbag for them after that. You've also got this stat in the football game that's just mind blowing. It's about Pac 12 teams in the bowl games when they take on an opponent that's coming off a win, like Boise State is.
Okay.
Those Pac 12 teams are 2-25
Oh,
against the spread.
that's
Two
that's
and
just all time, or is that bowls?
that's bowl games.
So basically, what that means is that since it's the last game, that means that when a Pac-12 team is taken on, a lot of times it could be a championship team, a really good team that's winning their last game.
Yeah, they could cross paths with a championship team.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
But even
But
so, that's huge. Two and
well,
25.
it's unbelievable.
Okay.
And it's good because the other team is in a good frame of mind. You
Yep.
mentioned off a win. They're not despondent or bummed out because they're off a loss like UCLA is
That's
against
true.
California, who they got wiped out by as a 10-point favorite. I kind of think they packed the season in that particular football game.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's Boise State, that conference champion, who's a dog to a team I feel doesn't even care about this football game. They would be play number 2.
I can't disagree with you there. Those definitely sound like solid plays to me. That's the direction I will then go, especially because you can get, if you want to risk the money line, you got 2-1 on the money line with Miami of Ohio. You got plus 170 on Boise, so that works out. And keep in mind too that the Miami of Ohio game is at 3:30. So if you wanted to do a parlay, you can definitely do that with both of those teams. And the only other game, to tell you the truth, on Saturday that I would feel a little bit comfortable with is Jacksonville State. They're a 2.5 point favorite in that game. I know Louisiana's sort of like a home game, but this is not the Lafayette teams from several years
That Billy
back.
Napier had when they were good, right?
Yes, this is just not. They've had just a bland season, nothing special. Just so there's just nothing there. But Jacksonville State with Rich Rod in the first year and his first bowl, there's a lot of excitement. Nobody's bolting the program. There's no interim coach. This would be that other game that I'd feel pretty good about.
Well, they're pumped up to be here, Jacksonville State, just to get the invite. My goodness, they transitioned from FCS to FBS. They're not eligible for a bowl game, but they made it because they needed bowl slots and because they won enough games in the season to qualify. So, hence, they filled the role, they plugged them in, and here they are. Got to feel pretty good about that. Rich Rod, you mentioned their head coach, a lot of experience, been there, done that. What he hasn't done, however, is fare well in bowl games. He's only 2-9 to the spread in bowl games, 1-7 as a favorite in bowl games is Rich Rod. 0-5 to the spread as a favorite when coming off a loss as a favorite at the end of the season game against New Mexico State. So I'm a little bit concerned about all those Rich Rod numbers here that everybody's rushing to. And I'm also looking a little bit toward Louisiana from the aspect you mentioned. This is their home away from home,
Yeah.
the Superdome. They played 6 games in the New Orleans Bowl. They won 5 of them. And, for whatever little bit of a crowd that's going to be here, and it's not going to look big because it's in the Superdome, they're going to be Cajun fans. They're not going to be Jacksonville State, Alabama fans,
Sure.
unless they travel in droves. And it's a school that's rich with wealthy alumni, which I highly doubt. But you're going to see more raging Cajun fans here supporting this team. So I think they made a mistake making Jacksonville State the favorite. Had they not, and they'd been the dog, I'd be talking with them all about, like you just did, about being thrilled, being here. Now they're now being the underdog in the game, but it's just the fact that they're laying points in this first game I'm a little bit concerned about.
And the other one that I should have mentioned too is New Mexico State. And what I really like is the fact that they're only given 3.5. So I'm not worried about the number too much. And I know their top receivers transferring, but the quarterback looks like he's going to be back and ready to go, which is important. And even though they lost, and that kind of, it's a bummer. They had a nice little run going. It was a competitive loss. They lost their quarterback in the game. Backup quarterback, little experience comes in, keeps him hanging around. It was still competitive. Just shows you how well coached the team is. And this is just a battle of just good trend versus bad trend. I mean, so I don't know. And it's a de facto home game for New Mexico State. So no Jeff Tedford. 1-7 ATS last 8. 0-3 straight up last 3. Why not take New Mexico State in this one?
I like them as a football team real well. I really, really like Jerry Kill as a head coach. My heart's out to him for all the health issues that he's battled through and the success that he's met with bringing football programs back to life, which he did at New Mexico State. I don't think that he ever had a pulse at New Mexico State, but he's put them on the map here and done a really, really great job. I'm just concerned about the fact that they dressed them up as the favorite here. I'll give you a great number on them. The last 11 times they've been favored after being a dog the previous game, they're 11-0 against the spread.
Okay.
So they've handled the role change real well, has New Mexico State. But Jerry Kill has not done well in bowl games himself. He's been in 6 of them. He's only won 1 of them.
When was that one?
I'm sorry?
When was that one?
Well, it could have been at Minnesota.
No.
Ball State.
No.
Well,
come on now. It was last year.
Okay, there we go. See how short. Greg, the memory's good long term. Short term is garbage. Okay?
That was like a trick question. That was
Okay.
like, come on now. That was last year with New Mexico State. So that's a good thing. That's like, hey,
Yes,
you only got that win, but it was last year with the same team.
So he wiped the slate clean then.
Yes, he did. He's like,
Okay.
this is a brand new me. This is New Mexico State. And he's staying. I mean, nobody, I guess, I don't know if anybody called him. I mean, you would have thought that somebody would say, hey, what the hell are you doing down there? You're actually building a winning football program down there. But whether that's the case or not, or maybe he's just like just like Martin, where he's like, you know what? I'm happy here.
He's established. He's happy. Right.
I'm staying here.
Exactly. Look at Fresno State here. They're one of 6 bowl teams this year that failed to outyard an opponent in any game they played against other fellow bowl teams.
Not good.
That doesn't speak well.
Nope.
You're going into a contest against the same ilk, and you know that they pushed you all around the field that way, so you're not really geeked up about being that. But the underdog in those bowl games for the Bulldogs is 15-5 against the spread. If New Mexico State's the dog, I'm on them like white on rice. I just don't like the fact that they brought them favored in this contest here, and I was a little bit surprised that they did. Just the fact that they were a double-digit dog to Liberty their last game. They were
Sure.
a 2.5 point home dog to Jacksonville State. They were a 25-point dog to Auburn, a 5.5 point dog to Western Kentucky. All 4 of their last games they were dogged up here. Now they're coming favored. That's my biggest concern.
All right. Now, the rest of the week, you've got games every day. So, and just quickly running through them, Old Dominion will be on Monday against Western Kentucky. ODU, to me, has to be the play. Yes, they lost their star defender, Jason Henderson, the nation's leading tackler, banged up in the last game. That's a loss. But Western Kentucky looks like their quarterback Reed might skip the game, so keep an eye on that. Their top wide receiver might skip the game, Malachi Corley. They've got about 5 or 7 players, including 3 starting offensive linemen who may not play the game. So there's a lot more that may not play the game, including Austin Reed. And if he doesn't play, well, you know what? Because I would bet that he doesn't play. And if he doesn't play, I don't think Corley plays. So I think ODU is a pretty solid wager because of that on Monday. Texas San Antonio is a big favorite against Marshall at the Frisco Bowl on Tuesday. Final game for Frank Harris, the quarterback for the Roadrunners. So I think he's going to be stoked. Keep in mind, AAC Defensive Player of the Year Trey Moore's transferring, so he's not going to be there though for the Roadrunners. But on the other side, Marshall, they have a new offensive coordinator, so that might be good or bad. Their star running back might opt out. Keep an eye on that. And it looks like the true freshman quarterback, Cole Pennington, will get the start in that game. So far, he hasn't looked all that great, but he's a true freshman, and he's had a few extra weeks of practice. South Florida on Thursday against Syracuse at the Boca Raton Bowl. Syracuse 3-point favorite, interim coach, and I like South Florida. I just think South Florida has had a strong year. And I think this is also one of those games where I think they want it more. They are also a little bit of a home field edge, maybe being in Florida, in South Florida. Central Florida will play Georgia Tech at Friday. And how can you not love it when Georgia Tech is a dog? And Georgia Tech's a dog. They're getting 160, so I'm jumping on Georgia Tech. Should be a good game, though. Gus Malzahn's got Central Florida in a bowl game as a Big 12 team, so that's a good accomplishment. And I believe those are the games between now and next Friday. So any of
Well,
those games pique your interest?
yeah, well, let's go backwards from the Georgia Tech game. You mentioned they're a really good, valid dog, and they are. They come and they play hard, especially giving them points. And you've also got UCF in a bowl game that I'm sure they're not thrilled to be in. They moved to the Big 12 this year. We're the big boys. We're playing Power 5 football right now, and they land in the Gasparilla Bowl
Yeah.
with a 6-win record,
Yeah.
6-6 record. I don't think they're thrilled to be here. Georgia Tech is really happy to be here. Anything that Georgia Tech can do, that brings fans to football games in postseason, I think they love that. I'm with you. I would lean to Georgia Tech here. Syracuse has got me befuddled here because they did let Dino Babers go. They made a new coaching hire here, so these kids will probably be playing to win him over as he watches the game from the stands, I'm sure. Maybe on the sidelines. I don't know if he's allowed on the sidelines. But I'm with you. I like South Florida in the football game. Syracuse had a lot of opportunity this year to get right. They started the season 4-0, and they ended up 6-6. So
Yep.
what does that tell you where they went? Okay, completely south. South Florida is a football team that you get a square effort from. They did play in the same conference against Syracuse. They were 8-2 straight up and against the spread in these head-to-head matchups there. And the game, like you say, is in Boca Raton. It's the other opposite side of the state, but at least it's in Florida for South Florida. I'm with you. I like the Bulls in that football game. Marshall and Texas San Antonio is a tough game for me because you said Frank Harris is going, what is it, like 9 years he's been the
Yeah.
quarterback?
Time to go, man. Time to go. Time to grow up.
Well, he's really a talented athlete. There's no question. And San Antonio is all about him. When he's in the lineup, they're really good, and when he's not, they're not any good. Having him in the lineup is going to be huge for him in this football game. I just don't like the price, the way he dressed up here.
Big.
You look at Jeff Traylor, their head coach. He's not been good outside the conference when he's been favored, just 5-9 to the spread the 14 times. And this is a Marshall football team that is really, really good in postseason bowl games. 18 times, the last 18 bowl games, they've won and covered 13 of those. They know how to play well in postseason bowl games. Charlie Huff, he's really good as a dog. I've got to give him 7 or more points. He's been there 4 times. He's cashed 3 of those tickets here.
Okay.
I think it's just too many points for a UTSA
is.
to be laying to Marshall, just personally, okay?
It's probably be a high scoring game because Marshall's
Probably.
defense isn't all that good. So, yeah. And Frank Harris, last game, he'll probably put up a ton of yards and stuff. So, yeah. Again, I'm not a totals guy like Victor, but I get the feeling Victor might go with the over there.
The other game, I'm a little bit surprised that ODU came the favorite to Western Kentucky. ODU's had a pretty decent year. They had to win 2 games in a row to end the season, but so too did Western Kentucky. Both of these Western Kentucky had one win, and they got the seventh win in that last game. So they didn't need both, but they got two wins to end the season here. All six of Old Dominion's wins this year were one-score games. Those six wins came by a total of 23 points. So they do tend to play close to the vest type football games. And had they dogged up here, I might have made that a push that point a little more solid for them. But again, I'm a little disappointed they're favored here. Western Kentucky is still a very good football team in the postseason. They've done really, really well, and they've played together before in conference games. They're 6-1 straight up, 5-2 to the spread is Western Kentucky inside this series here. I'm going to lean to Western Kentucky in the game. I think Old Dominion's maybe thrilled to be here, but I don't know if they can handle the weight.
Yeah, I get the feeling that they probably have some information that Reed's not going to play, because that is a major loss if Western Kentucky does not have Reed at quarterback.
Well, that'd be huge. I mean, it's all about him. Western
Yeah,
Kentucky has the better offense and the better defense, but that offense is there when Reed plays.
yeah.
Okay, right.
So I think maybe, and again, as I mentioned, there's at least 5 to 7 key players that look like they're opting out for Western Kentucky. That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
And that's probably the reason, right? Most likely. And by the way, I don't even know the famous Toastery Bowl. Never heard of it, so I have no idea where the heck that thing is going.
Well, you know what that is? That's Charlotte, North Carolina. That's the Bahamas Bowl that couldn't play because of
Oh,
they're doing everything. So in Charlotte, they said, "Hey, boys, come on over. We'll host it, and we'll get the Toastery to be the sponsor." The Toastery is an eatery, a very, very popular eatery in Charlotte, a
oh,
breakfast and lunch place, and it's extremely popular. So
okay.
they jumped at the chance to sponsor this thing. Probably a one and done type thing for them, but at least we're going to know a little bit more about the Toastery before this game is over.
Yeah, I'm sure. If they do a good job,
Yeah.
then yeah. By the way, no game on Wednesday. Not sure what that's about. I thought there was a game every week, every day, but not on Wednesday. So I don't know. Something must have happened there. But that's it. Next week, we'll preview the next week's bowl games, and that'll start with Saturday games and a bunch of Saturday games. The Troy Duke game might be interesting, of course, to talk about. Riley Leonard transferring to Notre Dame. So,
First Sam Hartman, then Riley Leonard. They just
yep.
yep, they go after those ACC kids, don't they?
Yep. Also, big names. You've got, well, for Georgia State, their running back Marcus Carroll, 1350 on the ground, 13 touchdowns, transferring to Missouri. So he's not going to be in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl against Utah State. We'll talk more about that next week. Definitely talk more about the Armed Forces Bowl on that Saturday with James Madison, interim coach, Air Force, whether the quarterback will play. So that's something that we'll tap into. Utah, Northwestern, Las Vegas Bowl next Saturday we'll talk about, because Utah looks like their quarterbacks are transferring out. So I have no idea who's going to be starting for Utah in that game. And Coastal Carolina and San Jose State will be a late game next Saturday. Hawaii Bowl. And that should be a good one. San Jose State, I still believe San Jose State was the best team in the Mountain West Conference this season. I think they got robbed technically out of playing in the championship game. So we'll see if they take it out on Coastal Carolina. And we'll talk more about that on next week's show.